Hello and welcome to Analysis. I am Oyi Adekunle. Now, what happens when the institution responsible for safeguarding lives and properties of citizens come under frequent attacks? Now, this best describes the situation with the Nigerian police force for some time now. Aside the latest spate of attacks on police stations and infrastructure, particularly in the country's southeast, there's been a new dimension, which is jailbreak. 1,844 inmates at the Owerri Custodial Center were set loose when heavily armed men stormed the facility by using explosives to blast the administrative block. They didn't stop there. The assailants also proceeded to the Imo State Police Command headquarters, where they burned several vehicles and released some suspects locked up in cells. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack, but the police says preliminary investigation revealed that members of the now proscribed Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, and Eastern Security Network, ESN, are behind the attack, an allegation, of course, that the group has denied. But joining me now to discuss more on this development is Dennis AMACHREE, who is a former director of the Department of State Services, DSS. He joins us via Skype from another part of Lagos. Mr. AMACHREE, thank you very much for joining us on the program. First off, what do you make of this situation? I mean, President Buhari describes it as an act of terrorism. Do you equally see it that way?
Thank you for having me today. The president has called it an act of terrorism, but we've been having acts of terrorism across the country. This is not an isolated case. This is not the first time police stations have been burnt. And then, of course, we have all kinds of prison break that has been happening across the country. So it's one of those criminal activities that we are experiencing between last year and this year, and it's something of worry because it is the underlying factors of why this thing is happening. If you come to that analysis, it is very, very worrisome.
I mean, like you rightly said, we saw a similar jailbreak situation in Edo State. That was during the NSAS protest. Now, is this like a new trend, or is there something behind this that security agencies need to be conscious of?
I think one thing we have to understand, it started with the NSAS. Now, what was the NSAS? It was against police brutality. And then, of course, although it was hijacked, and then, of course, people went ahead and started burning police stations and stuff like that. I think it's very, very instructive that we have to be very, very careful. People and the citizens and the police have a trust deficit. There is no love lost between the two groups. And I think as we continue, we are going to see more of these, because the police is not your friend. And how do you express a situation where there is brutality by police? So I think the society is reacting to the police stance on law enforcement. I would advise that we go back and rejig or review the relationship between the police and the citizens.
But then what do you think the attackers really want to achieve? Because you see, there's no stealing, nothing is being carted away. What message do you think they're trying to pass across with setting prisoners free?
The message is very, very simple. No, leave the prisoner side alone. The part of the police is like, I don't like you, I burn down your house, and get out of here, or something like that, And the police people, like many of them, don't have offices anymore. And then, of course, some of them are worried because some are even killed. So I think that, like I said, it's a no love lost between police and the citizens. There is this trust deficit that need to be built up, whereby people should love and understand the police. And of course, the police should also respect and love the people, knowing fully well that they are working for the people, not against the people, as the colonial masters who set up the police made them to feel. Breaking prisons is a different ball game, because that one, I think, releasing criminals, many people have insinuated that if Boko Haram terrorists, who are terrorists, killing people, then the captured ones are being trained and rehabilitated, then why should everybody be in prison? That is the sense that one of the leaders of these guys that are doing this was saying, that the prison is locking up innocent people while other innocent people, other criminals are being let go. So if they are let go, then the prison should be opened up and then allow the other criminals to also get away.
Well, let's talk about the security situation as we've seen in recent times now, particularly in southeast Nigeria. Now, the situation there, do you think that there's probably a better way to address the tension, rising tension between members of the now proscribed IPOB, the police force, the government in general? How exactly is there a way to douse that tension?
Well, the thing is that I think basically we're having a lack of governance. A lack of governance. The governors of these states are not doing well in the sense of, command and control, asserting themselves, keeping the place safe. And when I say governors, I'm actually not even referring only to Southeast governors. I'm also referring to the ones in the Northwest, and of course other states, even in the Southwest, where we have banditry, because this is an extension of banditry, believe it or not. Although this time they didn't steal anything, next time they might steal something. So banditry, the proliferation of light weapons and arms is all over the place. And then, of course, lack of governance, where nobody is actually controlling these things. They are not scared again. They are not scared of the police, which is supposed to stop them from doing what they are doing. So we have a very serious national security problem. It is not just an isolated issue of Southeast or somewhere else. It's a national existential security problem.
And indeed, you'll agree that this is quite dangerous. Earlier, you said there's no love lost between Nigerian police and Nigerians. And it's really dangerous because these are people that should be protecting Nigerians. If they are people that we're supposed to trust, they should be men of the Nigerian police force. So going forward now, how do we mend this relationship? And what should be the approach of security agencies to this?
I think especially the police, because I think it's the police that is the central agency here that is concerned. Number one, I think the legislators in the National Assembly should go ahead and change Section 214 of the Constitution, where it says that there will be only one police force for Nigeria. Now, that is not working. We want them to review that particular sentence and then change it and make policing available to all the states. All the states. And please, I want to put this word of warning here. Creating state police does not mean that you are creating police for the governors. Because the governors, even some of them, are looking forward to it. Some of them who are talking about state police are busy thinking that when state police is formed, they will have their own police force with which they can now pursue their political opponents. No. The police, when formed, should be formed under law. And the law will delineate all the laws that they are supposed to enforce. They are law enforcement agency, not political enforcement agency. They will enforce the laws like murder, like human trafficking, like all kinds of, they are listed. They are listed. And these are common things that they should be done. Local governments also will have their own law, because they will not be doing the same thing as the state police. They will be more worried about land, traffic, and other kinds of things. So that's how it should be delineated. And then when we have this and bring law enforcement all the way to the grassroots, then I think society will be better off for it.
I mean, let's go away now from the Nigerian police force now and talk about the correctional facility itself. Now, about almost 2,000 convicts have been released into the society. Now, what do you foresee as a consequence of this?
Very, very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. Where criminals, hard criminals, are released into society. Some of them might be going after those people that make them to be prosecuted and then jailed. Some can go after the judges that make them go to jail. Some can even go after the policemen that prosecuted them or arrested them. And then, of course, these are criminals. They might not have a job. And then, of course, there are all these wild groups operating in the country, Boko Haram, bandits, that will be very, very ready to recruit people like that, because these are hard guys that they are going to get. So of course, the prisons that we have, correctional facilities, they call them now, are not doing any correctional job. They are just locking people up there. And then, of course, when they come out, they become hardened. So that's the problem we're having right now. The design of the prisons are not well done. There is no defensible space, and there is no static security that will make sure that you just don't break into.
Exactly. Well, I was just going to ask you that. Do you think that we have enough security architecture in place at our correctional facilities to prevent events like this?
No, they are not. They are not. That's why I was mentioning that any prison should have a static security space, or what we call defensible space, a space that is in between the prison inside, people inside, and those outside. And even if you try to break the first wall, there will be other walls around it that you cannot easily penetrate. And then, of course, most of the prisons we have now are in the middle of towns. They are right in the city. Prisons are supposed to be isolated areas, either on an island or in a very remote area. But now we find out that our prisons are right next door to us. Look at the Owerri prison, next door to the police station. So it is not properly situated.
And lastly now, just your advice to government, security agencies, the solution and way forward from this now.
I think the government should start looking inwards, and I think they should also try and realize that we have a pressing danger facing this country. Because I hear some people in government come out, and instead of addressing those problems, they are busy attacking people who are even suggesting solutions. You know about what happened to Reverend Bishop Kuka, and these are things that are very, very worrisome. People in government should listen to people in the society and then, of course, correct it. Advising is not insulting. And I think this is where we have to start it, where we take advice from society and then, of course, use the ideas that are coming in from the larger society to run a better country.
Well, Dennis AMACHREE, former DSS Director, thank you very much for speaking to us and sharing your thoughts on this very, very critical issue on analysis. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we'll take a short break here, and when we return, we'll come and talk about the latest strike embarked on by the Association of the ASUP, that's Polytechnic lecturers across the country. We'll take a short break here, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Now, it is a season of strike actions across Nigeria. The National Association of Resident Doctors, NAD, embarked on its strike action on April 1st. After that, judiciary workers, under the aegis of Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria, JUSUN, also commenced an industrial action on April 6th in its continued efforts to seek financial autonomy for the judiciary. Also, the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, ASUP, has downed tools. But joining me now on the program is Anderson Ezeibe, the National President of the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, ASUP, and he joins us via telephone from Abuja. Mr. Ezeibe, thank you very much for joining us on the program. And you were supposed to meet with the Minister of Education. In fact, that meeting did take place, and then you announced the strike. So what exactly happened at that meeting?
The Ministry of Education, led by the Honorable Minister of Education himself, invited us over for commencement of talks. Well, nothing much happened other than the fact that we introduced the issues in dispute. Took our time to explain to the government the reasons behind the strike, how far or how long it had taken us to arrive at where we are, and our expectations from the government to the extent of convening a proper, meetings for conciliation, and so that the issues can be sorted out.
Sorry to cut you here, Mr. Ezeibe. Please just help us get this right. That meeting with the Minister of Education was to serve him a notice of. So before now, you did not inform the ministry that you were going to embark on a strike. Is that it? No.
The ministry they've had our notice of strike since March last year. Another notice served them 2 weeks ago. So they had it, but the point is that they never invited us for a discussion of the issues. So this is the first time we are being invited to physically discuss the issues. All along, we've been having correspondences. Letters, we write, we communicate them through letters, but we've not had the opportunity of interfacing them physically on a negotiation of this nature.
So what exactly now are your demands?
The first one has to do with the non-implementation of the needs assessment report of 2014 for public polytechnics and colleges of technology in Nigeria. That activity was funded by the federal government to uncover the level of rot or deficit with respect to infrastructure in public polytechnics and colleges of technology in Nigeria. And 7 years after a report was turned in, there has not been any form of implementation, and the impact is such that the rot has continued to get deeper and deeper. The institutions don't have facilities to run, infrastructure is going down, and it is a sector that deals with skills education, skills acquisition. So we did a lot with equipment, and so it is quite capital intensive. Unfortunately, the government has not been able to respond in this direction. 2 years ago, an assurance of the release of 25 billion for revitalization fund in lieu of needs assessment implementation. Unfortunately, also 4 years down the line, not a penny has been released. So that is one of the key issues. Another key issue is the non-release of the minimum wage arrears to our members in federal polytechnics. They are owed now for 10 months in arrears of the implementation of minimum wage. This April makes it 2 years that the minimum wage, the new minimum wage regime came into law. And in December 2019, there was a presidential directive that all workers in all MDAs of the government should be paid. But as we speak, workers in polytechnics in Nigeria are still owed 10 months in arrears. And in the states, only about 4 states are currently implementing the minimum wage in different polytechnics under the proprietorship of different state governments in the country. And so we think that this is not right. Another key issue is the non-constitution of governing councils for the polytechnics. Since May last year, the governing councils, the federal polytechnics have been running without governing councils. because the tenure of office of the existing ones then had elapsed. And we had expected the government to reconsider these councils in line with the provisions of the Federal Polytechnics Act. Unfortunately, as we speak, that has not been done. And the implication is that principal officers cannot be appointed in these polytechnics. The rights oversight functions cannot be carried, or control activities cannot take place. The staff appraisal activities or promotions cannot also take place, and this is very wrong. In different states, also state polytechnics governing councils are not in place, and it is a thing of worry for us. Also, in some states, our members are not being paid salaries. Like in Abia State Polytechnic, they are owed for 24 months. In Edo, they are owed for 5 months in arrears. Osun State, half salary for 24 months. In Ogun State, they are owed for like 6 months. And so it's all a tale of woes with respect to payment of salaries in the states. We are also asking that the government should look at the establishment of a dedicated commission or a body that will concentrate on the proper regulation of polytechnics in Nigeria, the same way we have it for the universities and the colleges of education. That is also one of the items.
Sorry to cut you here, Mr. Ezebe. I just want to ask, throughout last year, we saw what the Academic Staff Union of Universities, that's ASUP, did with the federal government. They literally had the federal government by its neck, pushing their demands. Why at that time did ASUP not also come out with some of the demands that you're highlighting now?
Well, the demands that I'm highlighting now have all been there since then. The only difference was that we didn't think that it was time enough, it was timely to go on strike. So, like I said earlier, these issues we communicated.
So why do you think this is the right time? You said at that time you didn't think it was time. So why? What did you see now that made you think that this is the time?
Well, the truth was that, then the nation was just coming out from a lockdown. And in the wisdom of our National Executive Council, they felt that the nation should be given a little time to recover from the impact of the COVID-19 lockdown. That was September, October last year. And we also felt that we should, within that period, of course, the government would have had ample time to look at the issues. Unfortunately, the government still has not looked at the issues. And so I would think that our union has been very considerate. We've been very, very, very considerate, considering our students, considering the state of things in the country, and giving more than ample time, more than enough time for the government to handle these issues. Unfortunately, that gesture has not been reciprocated.
Lastly now, Mr. Ezebe, before I let you go, would you just give us like very briefly now, tell us what were the resolutions that were reached at that meeting that you had with the Minister of Education, very briefly?
Well, the key resolution is that formal talks will commence, nothing more. Of course, nobody expects us to call off the strike because no resolutions, no agreement has been reached. So we are looking forward to a commencement of formal talks with representatives of the government of the country. And
so until then, you continue with the strike action?
Certainly.
Well, Mr. Anderson Ezebe, the National President of the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, we thank you very much for speaking to us on Analysis. With that, we call it a wrap on this episode of the program. Thank you very much for watching. I am Oyin Adekunle. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.